When you build a throne out of lies, don't be surprised when it crumbles beneath your own weight. My dear chosen ones, let's not sugarcoat this. We're not here to whisper. We're here to strike truth like thunder. Because right now, an entire group that thought they were untouchable is finding out what it means to gamble with betrayal. You've heard the old saying, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. But let me upgrade it for you. Play dirty games, and you lay in the trap you built yourself. That's the reality unfolding, and you, my chosen ones, are watching the greatest show of poetic justice unfold in real time. Look around. What's happening isn't chaos, it's a pattern. Betrayal doesn't need a hero to fight it. It consumes itself from the inside out. These people thought they were clever enough, united enough, manipulative enough to twist fate into their favor. But the very envy that fueled them has now turned into the acid eating their own foundation. Tell me, chosen ones, have you ever wondered why groups built on jealousy, deceit, and sabotage always implode faster than anyone expects? It's because their so-called strength was never strength at all. It was duct tape holding broken glass together. They were smiling for each other while secretly sharpening knives. That's not loyalty. That's survival instinct disguised as friendship. And survival instincts only last until the first crack shows. Before we dive deeper, chosen ones, let me ask you for one thing. If this truth, this energy, this fire is hitting home for you right now, don't just watch in silence. Show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support is the fuel that keeps us bringing you content designed to inspire, empower, and ignite the power inside you. Every click, every share, every comment tells us this message matters, and it helps us deliver more of these life-changing, hard-hitting truths straight to you. Right now, those cracks are spreading like spider webs across their empire. One by one, like dominoes falling, they're collapsing under the weight of their own schemes. Some of you might be asking yourselves, but why me? Why was I the target? Why did they choose me to aim their poison at? Let me answer that clearly. Because you are chosen. And when you are chosen, you attract both admiration and envy. Weak people don't hate weakness. They hate strength. They despise resilience. They choke on the fact that you exist as living proof of what they could never be. That's why their obsession with you became their downfall. They mistook your silence for weakness, not realizing silence can be strategy. They confused your patience with fear, not realizing patience is the sharpest weapon in a world that thrives on chaos. They thought your calm was surrender, when in reality it was power they couldn't comprehend. My chosen ones, remember this. Lions don't need to roar to prove they are lions. Now, let me hit them where it hurts. These so-called masterminds thought they were writing a script where you'd be erased. But they were blind to the truth. Every time they tried to bury you, they were planting you. And like a seed in the dark, you've only grown stronger, deeper, and harder to uproot. While they laughed in their shallow victories, the roots of your endurance were spreading silently, preparing for a rise they couldn't stop, even if they saw it coming. The irony, the very things they used to try and break you are the very things breaking them now. The whispers are resurfacing, the lies are catching up. The alliances they forged in shadows are shattering in daylight. The banana peels they threw in your path, they're slipping on them themselves. It's not revenge, it's not luck, it's simple cause and effect. You can't drink poison and not expect to rot from the inside. And oh, chosen ones, here's the best part. You don't even have to lift a finger. You are not the executioner here. Life itself is hosting this show, and trust me, it has saved front row seats just for you. Imagine sitting in the theater of truth, popcorn in hand, while every plot they designed against you collapses in slow motion. That's not just irony. That's pure satisfaction delivered in high definition. Maybe you're wondering, why does their downfall matter to me? Shouldn't I just move on? Yes, you will move on, but don't underestimate the value of seeing this moment. It's not about dwelling on their destruction. It's about witnessing the law of balance in motion. It's about recognizing that integrity outlasts manipulation, that endurance defeats numbers, and that silence can be louder than any war cry. Their downfall is not your victory. It's your reminder that you never had to fight dirty to win. This is your motivation, my dear chosen ones. Every laugh they threw behind your back, every lie they planted, every scheme they celebrated, it's all circling back now, louder and sharper than they expected. The stage is set, the curtain is rising, and the actors who thought they were running the show are tripping over their own lines. What happens to them is not just failure, it's exposure. They aren't falling because of you, they're falling because of themselves. So let me leave you with this. When the masks melt, the truth doesn't whisper. It screams. That scream is what you're hearing now. The so-called untouchables are being touched by reality. The self-proclaimed winners are learning the oldest rule in the book. You play, you lay. Chosen ones, the show has started. The lights are on, the crowd is watching, and justice, real, raw, and undeniable, is performing live. Grab your popcorn, sit tall in your seat, and let the downfall roll out scene by scene. This isn't just their ending, it's your confirmation. You were never the victim. You were always the chosen. And hey, thank you. Yes, you. The chosen one watching, you play, you lay. An entire group is being taken out one by one. The show's starting now, popcorn. Your presence is exactly what keeps this movement alive. If this hit home, show it. Smash that like, subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter, and drop 77 in the comments if you're ready to turn isolation into your advantage. If you want to back the channel even more, a super thanks goes a long way in helping us keep creating these intense wake-up-from-your-sleep kind of videos. Stay with me, the best part is coming. And now, let's dive into it step by step. Believe me, if you're truly chosen, these signs will feel unmistakably familiar. Number 1. Rigged games always devour their players. They forgot the table was rigged. Now they're paying the bill. Serve your own poison and don't be shocked when you have to taste it. My dear chosen ones, listen close. They walked into the room like kings because they convinced themselves the deck was stacked in their favor. They moved with swagger, counted their allies like currency, and smiled as they laid traps in the corners. But here's the cruel joke they missed. The table was rigged from the start, and every plate they piled with scheming was already stamped with their name. They forgot the table was rigged. They forgot the table was rigged. That echo isn't accidental. It's the drumbeat of inevitability they never learned to hear. Ask yourself the questions that keep you awake at night. Why did they target you? Why did they think they could bury you and get away with it? The answer is simple and bitterly honest. They targeted you because you threatened the world they'd built for themselves. Your existence exposed a truth they could not tolerate. So they tried to create a reality where your absence would validate them. They assumed numbers, noise, and coordinated spite would drown your light. They assumed cover would keep their fingerprints hidden. In their arrogance, they never considered the one variable they couldn't control: consequence. Chosen ones, understand this. Their plans weren't clever, they were predictable. Every lie they told had a pattern. Every whisper was a thread. And threads, when pulled in the right place, unravel the whole garment. They thought secrecy was a cloak. It was actually a spider web. The more they spun, the more they trapped themselves. While they celebrated temporary gains, they were actually building the scaffolding for their own exposure. The irony is surgical. They were laying brick after brick in a wall that would soon point to the very builders who put it there. You might be thinking, but how did they feel so confident? It's easy to mistake confidence for competence. Loudness masquerades as power. When they shout together, when they coordinate rumor and posture, it looks like strength. Strength, however, is not the volume of the chorus. It's the depth of conviction. They had noise, you had alignment. They had theater, you had foundation. That is why their pretend fortress is crumbling while your steady ground holds. They invested in illusion. You invested in truth. Their currency was counterfeit, and time has a way of identifying fake bills. Now let me speak to that burning question at the back of your mind. Should I strike back? Should I expose them? Pause and breathe, chosen ones. The power you hold is not in retaliation. It is in the restraint that makes their collapse undeniable. When you react, you join their theater. When you stay aligned, their own stories do the work for you. Imagine a stage where actors keep improvising lies. Eventually, the script contradicts itself so often the audience sees the seams. That's what's happening. Their contradictions are the proof, and the world is watching. Your silence, your steady motion forward, is the spotlight that makes their stitches visible. Let's be brutally clear about cause and effect. They didn't lose because someone else came for them. They lost because they wrote a script where exposure was the final scene. Every deceit was a deposit into an account that only pays out in ruin. Every secret meeting, every whisper, every manipulative handshake was interest on a debt owed to reality. Reality collects, it audits, and when the ledger is opened, every name is listed. That's the law they ignored. They thought they could cheat the system. They didn't notice the system had a memory. There's a lesson here that should ignite something in you. Being chosen is not a curse, it's a spotlight. It puts you in view, yes, but it also reveals the cracks around you. Their actions, meant to erase you, instead amplify the truth. You becoming visible is the mirror that reveals their rot. They cannot breathe in the same room as truth for long. The more they suffocate on their own smoke, the clearer your path becomes. This is why your endurance is the quietest weapon. While they scramble to maintain illusions, you keep building real things. Reputation, craft, relationships rooted in reality. That's the engine that keeps you moving while they tire out in performance. And for those of you asking, will they ever stop? No, not until their own structure collapses. People who live by short-term schemes are always running on borrowed momentum. Their applause dies faster than they can fake another round. Watch how alliances shift. Watch how friends who once smiled now calculate distance. Watch how the same voices that cheered become the first to turn away when the light reveals their contradictions. That pivot is the sound of the table tipping. Finally, let me give you the kind of clarity that turns anxiety into action. Your job is not to chase vindication. Your job is to hold your line, continue to show up, create, and be steady. Let the evidence of their choices pile up like rocks in a stream that one day dam breaks. The force of their own making will sweep them away without you stooping to match their level. They thought playing dirty was their advantage. The truth is, playing dirty is a boomerang. It always finds the thrower. They forgot the table was rigged. They forgot the table was rigged. And now they are clearing the bill. Chosen ones, this is your confirmation. You didn't lose, you were tested. You didn't fall, you were sharpened. You didn't get boxed in, you were revealed. Keep your head high, your steps measured, and your heart steady. The rigged table is finally serving justice of its own making, and you, the chosen, are watching it pay the price. Number 2. Endurance outlives the loudest attacks. Outlast, not untouched. Endurance wins the quiet wars. Victory isn't a single blow. It's the last one standing after the lights go out. My dear chosen ones, hear this plainly. Survival isn't a clean highlight reel where the hero never gets a scratch. Survival is a slow, stubborn burn that refuses to be snuffed. They believed the myth that power multiplies in crowds, that numbers equal strength and noise equals inevitability. They rallied like a storm, loud and confident, convinced that a swarm could break whatever they targeted, but storms fade. The question that matters is who's left when the weather clears. That's the law they forgot, and now their thunder is turning into a hollow echo. Ask yourself, why did they flock together like predators circling prey? Because weakness hides behind numbers. When you're insecure about your own worth, you build armies to prove it. When people bind themselves with envy and malice, they think quantity will bury quality. But quantity without conviction is just theater. Impressive for a moment, meaningless in the long run. Real survival is not about never being touched. It's about continuing when every wound aches. It's about being the one who still breathes when the loud ones have nothing left to shout. Chosen ones, this is where your advantage lives. You aren't invisible because nothing hits you. You're invisible because you refuse the battlefield they choose. Their strategy is spectacle. Yours is persistence. They wasted energy creating scenes, coordinating gossip, lining up strikes. You saved energy by showing up day after day, doing the work, staying consistent. While they spent hours watching your moves and reacting, you were building momentum they couldn't measure from the cheap seats. That's not luck, that's strategy disguised as calm. You might be wondering, how do I keep going when it feels endless? The answer is simple and brutal. Keep moving. Endurance doesn't need drama. It needs rhythm. It needs small, repeatable actions done without applause. It needs patience to endure the grind and faith in your own craft rather than faith in a crowd. Every step you take while they bicker and burn their bridges is another step cementing your survival. Scars will come. That's part of living. But scars are the map of someone who survived, not proof of defeat. Look at them now. Their alliances creak where trust should be. The rumored solidarity is cracking under the weight of reality because their glue was emotion, not principle. When pressure arrives, and it always does, jealousy evaporates, resentment surfaces, and suddenly that big, scary pack has no spine. Some members start protecting their own skin, others begin bargaining, and those who once roared together turn into isolated whisperers. That's not collapse. That's the slow implosion of a structure built on borrowed cohesion. It's ugly and it's unstoppable. Remember this: endurance exposes fakes. When the lights dim and the applause fades, authenticity keeps moving. The loud ones need validation, the steady ones don't. Your persistence is the quiet megaphone that amplifies truth without sound. They thought their mass could grind you to dust. Instead, their mass collapsed under its own weight because energy spent on envy and surveillance is energy stolen from progress. While they exhausted themselves trying to control you, you spent your hours making your life harder to topple. So what should you do now, chosen ones? Continue, build, heal, show up for the craft, the people, and the work that actually matters. Don't trade your consistency for a momentary win. Let their drama be the background noise while you write the longer story. Endurance is not glamorous. It won't trend overnight, but it refuses to be denied. It outlasts rumors, it outlives sabotage, and it survives the tests that break those who relied on flashover foundation. One last truth. Outlasting isn't about walking away unscarred. It's about being present when everything else falls away. It's about proving that even with the wounds they tried to inflict, you remain here, building, breathing, stronger in ways they can't measure. They wanted a quick knockout. You gave them a marathon they can't run. Their collapse won't be loud. It'll be methodical, one broken link at a time. And when the final quiet comes, the scoreboard will read what matters. You're still standing, and they are not. Stay steady, chosen ones. The show is starting now, and endurance is your front row ticket. Number 3, slow consequences cut the deepest. Slow. Justice is a silent guillotine. It cuts them bit by bit. Watch closely. The wound that never heals is the one you can't see coming. My dear chosen ones, gather this like ammunition. They expected a single thunderbolt, a headline-sized collapse, a front-page scandal that would topple them instantly. That's the movie they rehearsed in their heads. But life doesn't always deliver drama on cue. Sometimes justice is a quiet erosion, a slow, relentless drip that eats away at the foundation until the whole house surrenders. And the people who built their identity on manipulation are learning that the hard way. You need to understand what slow judgment looks like, because it's the meanest kind of exposure. It isn't glamorous. There's no dramatic microphone drop or sudden fall from a rooftop. Instead, it's the steady disappearance of what they once took for granted. Cash flows thin out. Friendly calls become invoice reminders. Alliances that were loud and proud begin to sound like negotiation. Confidence wobbles in the corners of their eyes. The image they polished in public starts to pebble and crack in private. They don't notice everything falling at once. They notice the small, humiliating things, a missed meeting, a forgotten name, a silent block. Those are the pinpricks that compound into collapse. You might ask, why does slow judgment matter to me? Because this is the exact theater where your patience becomes the strongest evidence of your superiority. While they're tangled in the scramble to salvage appearances, you are free to be consistent, to build, to grow. Their anguish is theater. Your life is steady narrative. Their slow undoing exposes not only their crimes, but their character. And when erosion reveals character, the world pays attention. People don't simply forget. They recalibrate who's trustworthy and who's not. That shift is permanent. Let me answer the quiet voices in your head. Isn't a quick takedown better? Isn't instant exposure satisfying? The instant spectacle feels cathartic, but it's fleeting. A dramatic fall can be spun, explained away, or dismissed as a fluke. The slow unspooling, it's irrefutable. It's the archive of habits, of patterns, of consistent failure to sustain the truth. When their resources dry, when the phone stops ringing, when the smiles become mechanical, those are the pieces of evidence that no spin doctor can stitch together. Slow justice writes the dossier everyone reads later. And yes, chosen ones, this pace is torturous for them by design. Slow collapse keeps them awake. It's psychological attrition. Imagine living every day with the knowledge that something you once controlled is slipping through your fingers, and you can't point to one moment to fix it. Will the cash stop tomorrow? Will the partner flip? Will the reputation disintegrate next week? That uncertainty corrodes decision-making, erodes confidence, and forces them into rash moves that only hasten their decline. It's like watching someone drown while they thrash. The more frantic they become, the faster the water fills their lungs. Now hear this. Your role is not to revel in their rot, but to be the living proof it was always about them, not you. Stay visible. Keep producing. Let your calm be the contrast that makes their cracks unmistakable. When others ask why you didn't strike back or why you didn't seek revenge, answer with your life, your steady progress, your continued relevance, your refusal to stoop to their level. These are the markers that separate the chosen from the compromised. They hoped noise would win. You know, noise fades, truth endures. For those who wonder how long this slow bleed will last, long enough to be convincing, short enough to be decisive. Systems built on deceit don't unwind overnight precisely because they need time to expose every thread. Watch their networks fray. Watch the small betrayals bubble up. Watch confidence erode into paranoia. Each tiny failure is a stitch pulled from a garment revealing the whole rag beneath. By the time the public realizes, the internal collapse is too far gone to patch. Finally, keep this phrase close. Slow justice strips control before it strips comfort. They will fight to keep what they can't hold, and in that fight, they will betray themselves further. Your power, chosen ones, is to remain the constant. While they bleed slowly, you heal steadily. Let time do the heavy lifting. The show is starting now. Sit, watch, and let the slow unraveling speak for itself. Number 4. Treachery always returns, sharper than it left. Throw a knife, expect the boomerang. Betrayal always boomerangs. Throw your blade into the dark and be ready to catch it on the way back. Chosen ones, hear this like a verdict. Betrayal never disappears down a drain. It circles. It comes home. They scoffed in shadow, convinced that secrets were currency and silence was a vault. They whispered into ears that never learned loyalty. They sewed tiny knives between shoulders, and they watched you from the wings as if distance would guarantee impunity. But what they failed to grasp is simple and savage. Every secret blade they cast out carries its own return trajectory. Betrayal always boomerangs. Betrayal always boomerangs. You might be asking, how can something so hidden come back louder than it's hiding? Because lies have weight, and weight leaves tracks. Every deceit is a breadcrumb. Every staged conversation, every edited screenshot, every cozy handshake that was really a setup. Those are not vanished moments. They're recorded in the soft places where people keep memory, in failed alibis, in inconsistent stories, in the way someone avoids your eyes at a reunion. Sooner or later, those crumbs map a path straight to the hand that dropped them. That's the mechanics of the boomerang. Cause has a memory. Consequence remembers every address. And yes, I know the question that burns in the back of your skull. When will it hit them? Will it be sudden? The answer for most is not a thunderclap. It's a slow, precise recoil. Sometimes it's a whisper that starts a chain reaction. Sometimes it's a contract that falls through, a partner who decides they've had enough, a message that surfaces in the wrong place at the wrong time. The return isn't always dramatic, but it is inevitable. The boomerang doesn't panic. It travels the course you set for it until everything aligns and it finds you, or them. This is where your role as the chosen one becomes important. You're not the thrower. You didn't cast the first blade. Your power is not in launching countermoves. It's in watching the arc do the work for you. When the energy they invested in hurting you begins to turn inward, you don't need to scream louder to be heard. Calm observation is a weapon they don't know how to defend against. Their frenzy to create distance and narrative only tightens the noose they built themselves. The more they try to control the return, the clearer their fingerprints become. For those tempted to retaliate immediately, hold. Reacting hands them the script they wanted you to play. Every public strike grants them the theater. Let the details arrive in their time. Let the patterns reveal themselves. People who were once willing to lie in chorus will start to fumble when someone among them opts for honesty. That single honest voice breaks an orchestra of deceit because it creates dissonance where harmony was manufactured. Watch how one conscience can be the match that lights the pile. There's a harsh poetry in watching the boomerang land. The weapons they crafted for you, rumors, doctored evidence, alliances built on convenience, become the measuring rod of their shame. Friends notice the contradictions. Colleagues calculate the math of who benefited and who lied. Casual observers start to see the seams and point. The energy they spent destroying others turns inward and eats their credibility. That's not luck. That's the arithmetic of consequence. You might wonder, will they ever admit it? Some will in fragments. More will scramble for excuses, for scapegoats, for fresh lies to throw farther. But the beautiful truth is this. Once the boomerang returns, the options narrow. Denial requires coordination. Truth needs only to be consistent. Your steady presence, your refusal to gaslight, turns their frantic storytelling into noise. In public and in private, the pattern reveals itself. The betrayers become the betrayed by their own hands. So sit tight, chosen ones, not in passivity, but in disciplined stillness. Continue to build, continue to rise, continue to show up where it matters. Let the boomerang do its work. When the truth shows its face, it will not whisper. It will point with clarity. You won't need to hunt for justice. The mechanism of cause and effect will do the hunting for you. Remember the line, throw a knife, expect the boomerang. Their betrayals were investments in ruin. Now the returns are cashing out. The show is starting, the seats are filling, and the audience is watching as every thrown blade finds its way back to the thrower. Watch it land. Watch them realize too late that the energy they poured into destruction was the exact force that dismantled them. Number 5. Poisoned alliances collapse from within. When the pack turns predator, the crew always eats itself. Build a kingdom on envy and watch the courtiers sharpen knives for one another's throats. My dear chosen ones, watch closely. This is the part of the show where the chorus that once sounded so unified becomes a chorus of accusations. They called it strength in numbers, but what they really built was a buffet. Number 5, group evil always dies by internal cannibalism. Say it with me, the pack eats its own. The louder their unity sounded on the outside, the hungrier their members were on the inside. That manufactured solidarity was never solidarity at all. It was a facade stitched together with suspicion, backhanded deals, and the constant calculus of what's in it for me. Ask yourself, why do alliances fall apart from the inside rather than from external attack? Because when a group is formed from envy and selfishness, every handshake is a ledger entry, every smile a transaction. They don't trust each other because they never intended to. They only needed bodies to perform the illusion of power. Under pressure, a sudden loss, an exposed lie, a shift in advantage, those bodies begin to move for themselves. One betrayal begets another. One whispered bargaining chips away a friend's loyalty. The spark that brings down their empire isn't dramatic, it's petty, mundane, and painfully human. A missed promise, a withheld payment, a reputation protected at a colleague's expense. Those tiny betrayals are the termites gnawing through timber until the whole structure collapses. Chosen ones, here's the brutal clarity you need. Control built on fear and envy has a shelf life. It requires constant feeding, gossip, sabotage, quick wins, and every feeding weakens the feeder. They consume trust, the way addicts chase a fix, never satisfied, always needing more confirmation that they're still relevant. But in the hunt for short-term dominance, they forget that the energy spent undermining others doesn't vanish. It ricochets inward. Paranoia becomes the currency of the group, and paranoia eats cohesion alive. Leaders who once commanded respect become liabilities because their authority is built on intimidation, not loyalty. Friends become competitors the moment scarcity appears. That's the inevitable script. Predators forget they are also prey. You might wonder, will they realize it before everything falls apart? Some will, but most won't in time. The rot is quiet at first. A rumor here, a cutthroat deal there. And to outsiders, the group still looks formidable. That's the cruel part. The stagecraft fools the crowd until the backstage implosion becomes undeniable. And when it does, it's ugly and slow. There's no cinematic showdown, no dramatic unmasking with thunder and applause. It's slow attrition, relationships fray, resources dry up, loyalty becomes bargaining power, and every attempt to secure advantage only accelerates the decay. The group's energy turns inward and corrodes the very things they relied on. This is your vindication, chosen ones. Their collapse is not your victory in the sense of violence. It's validation of restraint and authenticity. While they staggered through a loop of sabotage and counter-sabotage, you were building in plain sight. Real alliances, real work, real reputation. You didn't need to poison the well to grow. Their hunger to outdo and undermine one another created a vacuum that truth, consistency, and purpose slid into. When the dust settles, there's no one left to claim the power that was always hollow. So what should you do while the pack self-destructs? Stay out of it. Don't feed their drama with your reaction. Record the evidence, maintain your standards, and let their cannibalism be the spectacle that exposes them. Hold accountable when necessary, but do it from a place of clarity, not revenge. The universe, or call it consequence if you prefer, simply returns what is invested. If they invested in betrayal, betrayal is what will collect. If they invested in sabotage, it will be the sabotage that consumes them. Remember this line: you play, you lay. They played, and now they are laying themselves down piece by piece. Internal cannibalism doesn't discriminate. It devours everyone who participates. Watch the show, Chosen Ones, learn the lesson. Let their collapse be the silent proof that cruelty built in a group is never a strategy, it's a sentence. Stay steady. The show's starting now, and their final act is their own doing. Number 6. Untouchable power comes from refusing their arena. Untouchable, you refuse to play their arena. Don't blame the arena for your wounds if you never walked into it. My dear Chosen Ones, listen up. This is the quiet power they never understood. They mistook your silence for surrender, your calm for cowardice, your patience for passivity. They watched you not shout, not strike, not perform on their stage, and they smiled because in their heads, silence equals weakness. They were wrong, dead wrong. Their whole playbook depended on one assumption, that anyone who didn't fight back could be cornered, owned, and erased. But you were never in their rule book. You played a different game, one they couldn't even read. Ask them now, the architects of rumor and trap, how does it feel to discover your best-laid ambushes keep finding empty air? How does it feel to scream into a room and only hear your own echo? That's the sting of mistaking restraint for retreat. While they staged their chaos, you moved on a plane they had no instruments for. They counted allies like chips, stacked voices like armor, and expected quantity to beat quality. They underestimated the simple fact that alignment, inner clarity, consistent action, and strategic restraint beats reactionary noise every time. Chosen Ones, understand this clearly. Your untouchability was not born from luck or invisibility. It came from discipline, from refusing to be bait, from choosing strategy over spectacle. They threw every kind of provocation at you: whispers, public shaming, manufactured crises, and petty sabotage. Their tactics were loud, ugly, designed to provoke a flip that would make you look like the villain. But you held your line. You let the fireworks burn out while your foundation grew quietly stronger. Imagine a blacksmith hammering steel in a back alley while a mob clatters with cymbals outside. Who ends the night with something of value? The mob tires. The smith shapes a blade. You may wonder, Chosen Ones, should I have defended myself earlier? Should I have answered every lie with a counterstrike? Number. That's the trap. Retaliation hands them the narrative. Reaction feeds their momentum. Your real power is not in matching their theatrics, it's in outliving them. Think of it like tide and rock. Waves rage, splash and recede. The rock remains. Over time, the waves exhaust themselves. They are the drama. You are the shore. Their efforts exhaust their own energy, while your steady presence becomes the evidence of their impotence. Let's be blunt to the ones listening who think they won by pushing you. Your victory was temporary because it was based on noise and position, not principle. Noise makes people look big for a minute. Principles make you last. They spent their energy crafting illusions of control. You harvested actual control by building something real: reputation, competence, relationships anchored in truth. When the theatrics end, those real things are what remain. Their strategy was to make you snap, to pull you into their mud so you'd both drown together. You refused, and in refusing, you turned their mud into their trap. Here is the hardest truth for them to swallow. Your restraint is not weakness, it is a weapon. It slices through their performed confidence because it reveals how shallow that confidence is. Their apples look ripe until time shows the rot inside. Your silence is not absence. It's a mirror reflecting their corruption back at them. Every attempt they made to provoke you only amplified the contrast between their chaos and your composure. People notice contrasts. Audiences see the difference between the actor and the artisan. So keep holding your line, chosen ones. Keep doing the work they tried to distract you from. Keep showing up with discipline, humility, and craft. Let them be loud. Let them scramble. Let them exhaust themselves trying to control what was never theirs to control. Their collapse will come not because you struck them down, but because their own model was unsustainable. You are untouchable not because you are invincible, but because you refuse to be controlled by someone else's narrative. Remember this and say it with me. You didn't lose your chance by not fighting back. You earned your future by not lowering yourself. The arena they built burns everyone who steps into it. You stayed out. You preserved your energy, your dignity, and your trajectory. While they fall over their own theatrics, you rise quietly, undeniably, and untouchably. Number 7. Obsession eats its host faster than its target. The eyes that watch turn to ash. The more they stare, the faster they rot. Keep your eyes glued to someone else, and you'll wake up with nothing left of your own life. My dear chosen ones, they trained their gaze on you like a hunger that never fed. They kept watching, counting your moves, cataloging your mornings, replaying your smiles as if your existence were their only script. The more they watched, the faster they rotted. The more they watched, the faster they rotted. That repetition isn't just a line. It's the echo of their collapse. Obsession looked like power to them, but what it really was slow-acting corrosion. Every hour they spent trying to catch you in a mistake was an hour stolen from their growth, their craft, their bills, their families, their future. Time is the one currency you can't counterfeit, and they spent it all trying to own what was never theirs. Ask yourself, chosen ones, have you ever sat back and watched someone so closely that you forgot your own calendar? Imagine spending nights drafting scenarios about what you would do, rehearsing ways to pull someone down while your own projects collected dust. That's where they live now, inside a loop of surveillance and second-hand life. The mind becomes a prison when it is built out of other people's moves. They chained themselves to you and called it strategy, but chains do not empower, they immobilize. While they replay your patterns, you're out building patterns of your own. Work, habits, relationships, progress. Their obsession became the engine of their own undoing because energy, when misapplied, becomes entropy. Why does fixation destroy faster than force? Because fixation is quiet and continuous. A punch breaks a bone and the body heals. A wound from a drip is invisible until infection sets in. Their drip was constant. A glance here, a message there, a rumor seeded, a group chat buzzing about you at 2 a.m. Small things, yes, but relentless. They watched you like ants watch sugar, and in doing so, they forgot to build anything of substance for themselves. Their attention, which could have been used to improve, to learn, to create, turned inward into a corrosive loop of comparison and paranoia. Productivity stopped. Responsibility lagged. Relationships frayed. The rot spread. You might think this gives them an advantage. If they watch, they can predict, intercept, manipulate. But true prediction comes from presence, not from fixation. Presence is when you are fully engaged in your own path. Fixation is when you are a satellite orbiting someone else's life. Predicting a person's next move is petty when compared to forecasting your own trajectory. While they consumed mental calories trying to mirror you, you converted your time into momentum. The irony is cold and precise. They acted as though watching would make them comparable, when in reality it only made them smaller. There's also a social decay that comes with obsession. People who obsess alienate allies. When your life is a constant commentary on someone else, those around you see the emptiness. Friends notice the energy drain, colleagues see missed deadlines, partners feel neglected. The watchers begin to lose the very things they clung to for validation. Networks that could uplift become echo chambers of rumor and fear. The more they try to control your narrative, the more they reveal their own fragility to the world. And the world notices. Even casual observers start to sense something off, a hollow where strength should be. So what should you, the chosen ones, do while they decay? Keep moving. Keep building. Let their watching be the soundtrack to your progress. Every glance they cast is a wasted breath. Every rumor they hatch is another nail driven into their own coffin. Resist the urge to retaliate. Responding is entering the theater they built. Staying silent is turning the lights on, so their props look flimsy. The evidence will do the work for you. Their rotting becomes visible in unpaid dues, strained voices, and friendships that chill at the edges. Time reveals everything, and it's doing so methodically. Remember this like a creed. Attention is power, and where you place it determines what grows. They planted themselves in your life and expected to bloom. Instead, they cultivated decay. The more they watched, the faster they lost the only thing they could have controlled, their own fate. While they wither under the weight of their fixation, you rise, focused and unbothered, living proof that watching someone else's life never builds a life of your own. The show is starting now. Chosen ones, watch them watch, then watch them fall. Grab your popcorn. Number 8. Time burns every mask to ashes. When time turns up the heat, masks drip like wax. Keep polishing your mask. Time is a match that doesn't care how pretty your face looks. My dear chosen ones, watch this closely. They were immaculate performers, smiles polished, stories rehearsed, unity staged like a theater troupe. They wore trust like a costume and swaggered through rooms as if the script would never betray them. But here's the brutal truth they refused to see. No mask, however flawless, survives endless inspection. Time isn't theatrical, it's surgical. It doesn't need a spotlight to work. It simply waits, patient and precise, until pressure and fatigue make the mask soften and the truth begins to drip. Think about the smartest con you've ever seen. It looks real because every detail is attended to. They practiced laughter, calibrated their tone, and aligned their lines until the performance felt authentic, even to themselves. That's the scary part. Actors eventually start believing their own roles, but belief doesn't equal reality. Under steady heat, stress, scrutiny, missteps, contradictions, the glue fails. The seams loosen, the smile slides, and when that happens, what the world sees is not an elegant exit, but a slow, messy reveal. Chosen ones, you know why this matters to you. Their masks were tools meant to cover guilt and amplify influence. They dressed deceit up as credibility so they could move in confidence, harm in silence, and disappear when suspicion stirred. But masking is an energy drain. It requires constant attention, reinvention, and maintenance. While they were busy keeping the act intact, they were also wearing themselves thin. That's how time wins. Not with thunder, but with attrition. It's the drip of inconsistencies, the small contradictions that accumulate until there's no way to sweep them away. You might ask, how do I spot a mask before it's fully melted? Watch the moments they can't control. Observe where pressure forces a crack, a slip of tone, a delayed reply, a friendship that suddenly distances itself. Masks don't fracture in grand gestures. They fail in quiet human moments, the late-night texts that reveal panic, the flustered excuses, the sudden absence of the confident smile. Those are the tiny matches that set the whole facade alight. Your role, chosen ones, is to stay alert and let time do the heavy lifting. You don't need to tear the mask off. You only need to stay true and let reality do the rest. There's another layer here you must hold close. When masks melt, the reveal doesn't just expose one person. It reveals networks, the people who enabled, applauded, and ignored. What once looked like solidarity now reads as complicity. The tidy image of unity becomes a map of who signed off on deception and who looked the other way. That ripple effect is the real danger for them. Collusion makes exposure communal. No one who built castles of smoke escapes the collapse intact. The melting shows everyone who bought the dream and who built the lie. And let me be clear about consequences. This isn't merely embarrassment, it's consequence in widescreen. Trust evaporates, alliances fracture, opportunities dry up. Reputation, the currency they spent like monopoly money, loses value overnight. When people realize the performance was manufactured, doors close and past favors become liabilities. The heat of time corrodes not only masks, but momentum. The energy that sustained them becomes the very evidence that topples their standing. To you, the chosen, this should be fuel. Your calm, consistency, and refusal to engage in theatrics are your armor. As their masks melt, your truth sharpens by contrast. The world begins to see two things simultaneously: the hollowness of their act and the substance of your steady presence. That juxtaposition is not accidental. It's the inevitable outcome of alignment versus imitation. They tried to fake power. You built it quietly. They banked on performance. You invested in reality. So sit back and observe, chosen ones. Let the masks drip. Let time unspool their stories in full view. Every slip, every falter, every angry scramble to patch a lie is another scene in the show that proves you were never the fool for staying true. When the final piece of wax falls away, what remains isn't just them. It's the proof that truth, patience, and authentic strength always outlast contrived appearances. The show is on. Keep your seat. The reveal is the climax, and you, as always, are holding the front row. Number 9. Shared corruption guarantees shared collapse. When shared sin becomes a shared coffin, collective crime collapses the collective. Build your fortress of lies with others, and you'll all wake up inside the same burning house. Chosen ones, this is the moment to look closely and learn. They thought safety lived in numbers. They believed the more hands that wrote the lie, the thinner the blame would be. They were wrong. Collective sin doesn't divide guilt. It multiplies consequence. When a wrong move becomes group policy, the fallout stops being individual and starts being contagious. What they built together, fueled by envy, deceit, and selfish ambition, wasn't a shield at all. It was a slow-motion trap designed to snap shut on everyone who trusted it. Ask yourself, why does a group that looks powerful on the outside collapse so fast once the first domino falls? Because a collective crime is like a house of cards stacked on shaky ground. One tremor, one conscience, one mistake, one whistle-blown secret, and the whole thing folds. The logic they missed is simple but brutal. Shared wrongdoing forms shared exposure. The energy they spent coordinating betrayals, trading favors, and manufacturing narratives didn't disappear into some void. It accumulated like debt until the interest became unbearable. That debt is paid in full by all of them. You may wonder, chosen ones, but aren't groups harder to hold accountable? For a moment they can be. But remember this, the more people who know the lie, the more people who can crack. pressure doesn't split evenly. It finds the weakest seam and pours through. Their alliances, which were meant to be armor, become chains that bind them to each other's failures. Trust erodes first, suspicion follows. Suddenly, allies become bargaining chips, confidants become witnesses, and the fortress of the group becomes a prison for everyone inside it. That's the dangerous arithmetic of collective sin. The total responsibility is greater than the sum of its parts. Let's cut through the excuses, they whisper. We were only following orders. Everyone was doing it. It was a necessary move. Those phrases were their cover songs, sung until someone skipped a verse and the melody revealed the truth. An entire group's justification is only as strong as the smallest moral voice that refuses to sing along. Once one person chooses conscience over complicity, the narrative fractures. And once the narrative fractures, the performance is over. The audience sees the stagehands and the props and realizes the spectacle was manufactured. That realization is what starts the collapse. Imagine a rope with many hands holding it taut. If each hand grips with deceit, their combined hold seems formidable. But when one grip loosens, not because of force but because of conscience or consequence, the rope frays and fails. That's why shared corruption is inherently unstable. Bonds based on manipulation don't create durability. They create tension, and tension breaks. The more aggressively they tried to bind themselves in secrecy, the more they guaranteed that exposure would be catastrophic when it finally arrived. This is the part that should steel you, chosen ones. Their safety in numbers was always a myth, because numbers don't heal moral rot. They only hide it temporarily. The collapse that comes after collective sin is comprehensive and merciless. Friendships fracture, reputations implode, power evaporates, and everyone who signed the pact feels the burn. There are no clean exits when the group falls. The fall is shared, brutal, and complete. So what do you do as you watch them eat their own? Do not celebrate their ruin with glee. That lowers you to their level. Instead, take this as confirmation that integrity matters more than appearances. Your path is not to replicate their tactics in a larger chorus. Your path is to stand alone if you must, to act with clarity, and to let the evidence of truth do the work. Their collapse is the natural consequence of choices made together. Your rise is the natural consequence of choices made with conviction. Hold this certainty close. When wrongdoing becomes collective, accountability becomes collective. The fall of one will pull many down, and no scheme can buffer that pull permanently. Watch the pattern, learn the lesson, and keep moving forward. You are chosen not to join their chorus, but to outlast their theatrics. Ready for the next scene? Stay with me. Number 10 is coming, and it cuts even deeper. And that, chosen ones, is the undeniable truth. They played their games, and now they're laying in the wreckage they built with their own hands. What you're witnessing isn't luck. It isn't coincidence. It's the natural law of consequence playing out in real time. While they crumble one by one, you stand stronger, sharper, and more unshaken than ever. If this resonated with you, show your support. Smash that like button, hit subscribe so you never miss what's next. Drop 77 in the comments if you know you're chosen, and share this with someone who needs to hear it.